Hey writing class, I hope you all had a great, relaxing, nice long weekend. Welcome back to another week of digital learning. In today's lesson, we're going to be looking at lesson 28, part E. On Thursdays or our last class, you guys did an awesome job working on parts B, C, and D. And today we're going to look at part E. So I'm going to read what it says in the book. So find part E on your worksheet. You're going to write 2 paragraphs that tell what happened. So once again, guys, we are given 4 boxes. The first box gives us the first sentence of our first paragraph, which I have written here. Right, notice that I have indented, and then the first sentence is going to be James and Marcus wanted to get some fresh honey. Then you guys are given a picture. So we're going to describe what's happening in that picture for our first paragraph. Right, we notice that in the picture it names Marcus, James, and then it gives us a keyword, the beehive. We also have some exact words that Marcus said. So those exact words are, I think you are making a big mistake. Let's just go to the store and buy some honey. So we're going to need to make sure that we include those those exact words and everything that's happening in that first picture in our first paragraph. Then we are given an empty box right here. So this is where we're going to have to come up with the beginning sentence of our second paragraph. And then we're going to write or describe the important things that are going on in these 2 bottom pictures. We also have to remember that we have an exact words that somebody said, which is James, so we're going to have to include that as well in our paragraph. We also have some keywords which are written on the bottom of your paragraph. So we're going to use these to help us when we're writing our paragraph. So these words are swarmed, ladder, reached, breathed, ignored, pond, pickup truck, remained, and chased. So let's try to include as many of these keywords in our paragraphs as we can. And then we also have 4 checks that we need to make sure that we're going over. Check 1 is asking us, is each sentence punctuated correctly? So make sure that we're adding our periods at the end of each sentence. Make sure that all of our sentences are beginning with a capital letter, and that if we're using exact words, we're using quotation marks. Check 2 tells us, did you tell all the important things that must have happened? So remember that we have to describe all of the important things that are happening in each picture. Check 3 then asks us, did you write at least 2 sentences that begin with a part that tells when? So make sure that at least 2 of our sentences we're using our words that or parts that tell when. So these can be sometimes, before, after, next, on this day. Make sure we're including those types of words. And then check 4 is asking us, are there any unclear words in your paragraphs? So this is referring to if you use the words he, she, they, right? Before you can use those words, you have to first introduce the person or the thing. If you want to use, for example, it, you can't just start a sentence with it. You have to first name the object and then you can use it. And the same with he, she, and they. So make sure that once you're done writing your 2 paragraphs, that we're checking over our 4 checks. So let's begin our first paragraph. You guys are going to help me write the first paragraph. We'll write it together. And then I want you to focus on the last 2 pictures and write your paragraph, your second paragraph, on your own. So once again, our first sentence is given to us, James and Marcus wanted to get some fresh honey. Notice this is the beginning of my first paragraph, so I indented. So then let's look at the picture. We can see that there's Marcus in a truck. We can see that James is climbing up a ladder, and then we know that it's a beehive. So maybe we can write James and Marcus wanted to get some fresh honey. Maybe we can write that they drove to a beehive. I can use the word they because I already introduced James and Marcus. They drove to a beehive. Right. So now I want to describe what's happening in the picture. Let's try to use one of our parts that tell when. Maybe we can say the word or use the word next. Remember, after a part that tells when, I need to have a comma. if it's at the beginning of a sentence, just like that, right? So what's happening next? So they drove to a beehive. Next, let's try to describe what James is doing. So James had to get his ladder, and then he had to bring it to a tree, and he climbed it. So we can write next, James got a ladder and climbed it to get to the beehive. Okay. So notice again, I use the words they because I already introduced James and Marcus. Then I wanted to include at least one word that starts, or a part that tells when. So I have the word next. I needed my comma after. And then I described what James is doing. James got a ladder and climbed it to get to the beehive. Now let's describe what Marcus is doing. Marcus, we can tell in the picture, right? Marcus is sitting in the truck. So we can write Marcus sat in the pickup truck. Right. So there's our next sentence. Marcus sat in the pickup truck. And then he said some exact words. So now we have to say or put those words in our paragraph, right? Because I just introduced Marcus, my next sentence is also talking about Marcus. So I can begin it with he, right? He said, and now I'm going to use the exact words. So after the word said, I need to have my comma and my quotation marks. And then he said two sentences, so I'm going to write them down. He said, I think you are making a big mistake, but I'm not going to put my closing quotation marks in just yet, right? I have he said, comma, quotation mark, but he said two sentences. So instead of putting my ending quotation marks here, I have to still write the second sentence, then I can put in my closing quotation marks. The next sentence he said is, let's just go to the store and buy some honey. Period. And then my closing quotation marks. So once again, I have my beginning quotation marks at the beginning of what he said, and then I have my closing quotation marks at the end of the last sentence that he said. We've also already introduced, or we've used one part that tells when, and we've described everything that's going on in this picture. So our first paragraph is done, right? I indented, we wrote the first sentence, we described what's happening in the picture, we used a part that tells when, I made sure that all of my sentences begin with a capital and end with a period. I put my quotation marks around the exact words that the person said. And now what I need you guys to do is write your second paragraph. So you're going to have to figure out what will be a good first sentence for your second paragraph. So what do you think happened if we look at the picture where you have Marcus and James, they're at the beehive. And then in the next picture, we see that the bees are chasing James. So what do we think happened between those two pictures? Right, the bees flew out of the beehive. So that will be the beginning sentence of your second paragraph, right? The bees flew out of the beehive, or the bees flew out of the nest. So once again, when you're beginning your next paragraph, make sure to once again indent, and then you're going to describe what's happening in these bottom two pictures. Remember, once again, once you're done writing your second paragraph, to do your checks again. So great job, guys, and I will see you in our next lesson. Keep up the awesome work. Bye.